This video will show just how interesting and slash random things can actually be, because their plan didn't go perfectly, but they did follow a plan, and I think that's kind of like ideal Nukies, is to actually have a plan and not just people running off on their own doing team deathmatch stuff, which did still kind of happen, but that's kind of inevitable. So they went around the AI satellite and they brought their nuke because, well, that's the nuke they needed. They also had two kobolds with blood reds, which I think is also a really funny strategy. They did differentiate from the way I route. I recommended just going through here, but actually, since they have to bring the nuke, hacking this tiny little airlock and hiding the nuke here is actually a pretty smart place to do it, because the only people who can open these doors are, like, people with externals access. So actually hiding the nuke here and not just immediately rushing through here is a decent tactic. Personally, I still think if you're trying to do an armory rush, which was their plan, it would still be better to just move through here and run fast, because you can see the bolts on the airlocks is messing with them, and unfortunately for them, they ran into a person that they did, again, unfortunately shoot with a C20, and that C20 alerted all of science. So the Nukies opted to actually going in here and somewhat splitting up. As you can see, doors cause frequent problems for Nukies, but thankfully one of them has an EMAG, was able to open the doors. Again, they got a little sidetracked, and the plan was still to follow this route and go to the Armory. So they had all of this time. Security was informed pretty much the second they arrived on the station, but this route is so strong that no one in security is actually armed, and this is classic Space Station. You can't write a better script than this. The warden is literally sleeping in McGriff's bed, and 3 security officers, including the head of security, are dealing with probably a self-and-tag. I don't know if they were a thief, but it's pretty unlikely. While the Nukies are coming towards the Armory, I mean, you can't. It's just so funny. And so and just look how powerful this is. They got access to all of the lasers, and security has to shoot through this tiny gap, which I don't even know if they can, while the Nukies get free lasers to shoot through their own windows and kill them. Yeah, they're trying to shoot through and they can't even do it. And then one of the security officers tries to be a hero, and they very much, unfortunately, get locked in the armory and killed by their own weapons. There's this little counterattack going on here, which one of the kobolds split up on their own and got slaughtered. You can see here that the science team did split up. If they stuck with the armory, they wouldn't have had their own weapons used against them, like so. And they lost a blood red because of this. But anyways, the people here are pretty much gunless. They're using sidearms against the Nuki's original weapons and the Armory's weapons. So again, taking the Armory is really strong. The head of security actually does make a pretty smart decision at this point to put the door on emergency, but even then they would have to risk laser fire to even try to retrieve any of the weapons due to how this Armory's laid out. And again, just more of the free weapons that didn't cost any TC being used to slaughter the crew. Pun Pun, also trying to shoot through a solid wall, succumbs to more laser fire. Again, half the Nukies are still stuck in science because they didn't follow the route, but admittedly being this split up evenly is okay because it's obviously causing a lot of confusion even if they did lose some minor equipment. But thankfully the crew that did split off does have an axe and is able to break the doors. So really this whole division isn't too big of a deal. Again, they only lost a kobold with minor equipment, and they still got the armory, so overall, even without them sticking together perfectly, it still ended up okay initially. Head of security finally takes the decision to unlock the guns, but again, still had to face down direct laser fire. The agent who decided to hold this angle with a laser rifle is very, very good at combat in terms of understanding how the crew has to get their weapons. The head of security is fairly tanky, though, and the head of security was full health, though, so they were able to take a lot of laser shots, but they didn't even seem like they dropped below 60 health from all that. So now they can actually get the guns. But as that happened, another C4 detonated, screwing over the security officers again, so that poor head of security's plan just didn't work out. But I think this is really interesting, and it's awesome just how perfectly timed things can be. If that C4 detonated 5 seconds later, the head of security could have grabbed more guns for his officers, but he hit the worst timing possible of walking in as the C4 detonated, and gets shot several more times. The agent tried to capitalize off of this, but actually got hit by several sidearm shots. The agent, realizing that they can win a war of attrition, also pushes back in, and the Nukies actually work together very well here and push further into security to cause even more damage. The AK being used against the crew is brutal. I have no idea what the hell happened here. This is just, again, some form of self-and-tag bullshit that went on, so crew is obviously getting screwed over by this massive spill. Again, this stupid-ass puddle continued to slip a ton of security officers. So at this point, it's been a fair good minute since they've actually entered the station. The primary fighting is still here in security, but there's still also this team that's just in science. I'm guessing this... I mean, they keep getting attacked by random crew members. You can even see that they were never really meant to be split up at this point, because the agent is... or the operator Echo is just questioning whether or not... they're like even sticking together. I keep referring to him as the agent, but the agent's over here. I'm just used to the elite suit being the agent suit, so you have to forgive my earlier commentary on that. Again, the slipping, just absolutely screwing over people. Whoever made this puddle indirectly probably killed 3 or 4 people, maybe even more. It's crazy how this mess causes this many issues. So basically, these two Nukies were doing most of the main fighting. I know this crew in science did get hit by a few random crew members, but I mean, the crew really can't fight back. They're really just fighting security officers with sidearms, and I understand why the other two don't leave the armory, because they don't want the crew to get their weapons. So really what's happening at this point, the crew is sort of just suiciding into essentially hundreds of TC's worth of free armory weapons. But I mean, it's not like the crew really knows that. But that's why the Nukies actually holding their position here is incredibly powerful. I mean, he even said it, I'm guarding the armory until ammo runs out. So whoever, again, Operator Echo is extremely good with their combat sense and, like, just the nature of attrition of how Nukies works in general. Some form of cleaning grenade, I believe. What's an interesting thing here is you can finally see that the blood red that the Kobold lost has made it into enemy hands, aka the crew hands. I'm more so commenting from the perspective of the Nukies. The blood red got into the head of security's hands, who actually does have his submachine gun from earlier in the ship. So this Kobold going off on their own and dying and losing their body is now directly aiding the head of security. So you can see where fumbles on both sides can happen that aren't always apparent unless you're literally watching the spectators. Yeah, Warden never woke up. I approve that execution, honestly. Like, that's super funny. The Nukies have finally grouped back up, pretty much all of them, and they're using the last of the Nukie ammo, or the Armory ammo, sorry, and the plan is to finally get to the captain. There's pretty much no one directly left to stop them other than a stolen blood red head of security and whatever makeshift weapons that they have scrounged up. You can see they actually have enforcers, I'm assuming from cargo. Let me fly over to cargo real quick. Did cargo manage to order guns? Yeah, there's one shotgun crate that was ordered. Cargo, even with a tiny bit of money, could be a major thorn in a Nukie's side. So that's why moving is important, but they also made the decision to guard their armory, which denied weapons and ammo and killed people. So it's really a matter of a race against the clock of which departments can fight back. They could have made a decision to hit gravity. I don't think they planned on really getting gravity because none of them had mag boots, but that could have been a really strong secondary option. It probably would have been my idea, but that's something you have to plan from the beginning, and it's like, I mean, it's not like every plan needs to have gravity involved with it, but bombing gravity is super easy on this station. Like, if you're gonna hit armory, you could walk just 2 feet down the hall and stick a C4 right here, and the gravity will be gone. The Nukies seemingly have realized that cargo is also a pretty important target, so they sort of made their way there. This head of security, despite being really distracted by some random dude he had to arrest earlier. He's been really putting up a fight for being alone. The detective must have gotten confused at some point. I'm not entirely sure how the detective messed that one up, but I mean, things happen. This game's very confusing. But the detective was with him for quite a while, and obviously the head of security is a little upset by that. But they managed to, the Nukies managed to recover their own blood red again, which I don't think I've ever seen a stolen blood red get recovered. This little Nukie kobold just determined to get some damage in, just sort of cutting people running by, which, I mean, little kobold did well. He almost got slaughtered by his own guy, but did not end up happening. Kobold eventually gets slipped and chased down. Stun batoned. Can't really beat a stun baton. And handcuffed. Stun and cuff, as always, really strong. And the fact that you can strip every single slot instantaneously, also coming in very good use there. The crew once again gets a blood red. Nukies aren't far behind though, causing lots of chaos. Blood red still got dragged somewhere at this point. I'm not entirely sure where it went, but it's not super important. I wish I had like an instant spectate captain button. That'd be really cool. Little incendiary grenade to force them to have to burn while they retreat. AK still doing work, out of ammo now. Dead bodies absorbing bullets like normal. We're still just looking for the captain, but Bagel's basically a giant square around the bridge. Captain puts up a pretty valiant fight. Saber's still at 50% damage reflect at this point. Seems like the Nukies are aware of this and go into melee. The captain and research director have fallen. So remember that the Nukies have to use their own nuke, so the vault being locked here doesn't really mean anything. They have to go back, which they did hide their nuke fairly well, but it was a risk they are taking. Two more crew members putting up some fight. I think that's a skeleton. Yeah, it is. Skeleton's a station's defender at this point. The skeleton got insanely, like, the fact that he absorbed this many bullets and actually got away is incredible. I don't know where the kobold's blood red went. Also, again, somebody putting off a cleaning grenade, slipping a shit ton of people in medical. There's actually a lot of crew self-harm in this. Like, just so much slipping. Oh, Hugs of Void got the blood red. I guess they were the ones who took it, so that makes sense. As a crew, try to revive as literally many people as you possibly can until the nuke actually gets detonated. I don't know where that WT-550 came from. Might have been the head of securities. Maybe Cargo ordered more. They didn't actually destroy Cargo. They just kind of pushed towards it. So Cargo, again, at this point, every minute they spend not arming the nuke is another minute that Cargo can get more guns, more people get revived. They are obviously, again, Operator Echoes expressing that they need to arm that nuke. Time is very important at this point. Poor Bosco. He didn't deserve it. That's kind of abusing him. That man didn't deserve to die. So they had to bring the nuke in a little bit a ways from the airlock, obviously, because you can't arm it next to space. But this is a very brutal choke point to have to push for the crew. Which, they actually open it up, which I'm assuming this is because they wanted a spaced area, which is a fair decision, so some random dude can't just come in here and disarm it without a suit. They're spacing everything. Very, very strong tactic for Nukies. I mean, I fully agree with everything they're doing. It makes sense to utilize space when every single one of you has spacesuits. They also made a really smart decision to plant a Syndicate bomb. It happens to be next to Atmos, which probably doesn't really make much of a difference. The air on the station's probably going to remain steady. The pipes maintain gases anyway. But what it does is that this is going to absolutely destroy this hallway, which is one of the 3 primary ways of actually getting to the nuke. And without missing the action, they have the antique laser from the captain, obviously. I mean, this guy has both weapons. And here we go. We got some stun baton, best melee weapon in the game. Nukie gets stunned and killed. There actually is some backup, though. But they have an energy sword. Chasing them in the space was probably a good idea. Having an enemy blood red be able to heal up against you. EMP grenade cuts all the lasers off temporarily. The Captain Saber is such an insanely strong weapon. It just got nerfed as I'm making this video, but it's still just such a good damage weapon. Smile putting up a last defense. Truly the station's defender. Poor Smile. Failed CLF3 bomb. The skeleton put up a hell of a fight. More EMP implants. CLF3 bomb killed themselves. I think it's CLF3. I don't know. It could be water potassium. A little bit of a wide swing mishap, but kind of half the wide swing at that point to actually hit somebody. Still 3 Nukie standing. Medic actually doing a really good job reviving their own operator. Dude with a knife literally sticking out of his head. Lasers just aren't going to do anything against the 50% reflect. Captain Saber just insane. Infinite ammo, infinite melee weapon, or infinite ammo, high reflect melee weapon, good damage melee weapon. Literally no downsides. Like, this Nukie effectively has like 400 plus HP with good reflect and his 50% damage reduction. Just insanely strong. Paramedic using a death metal that doesn't inject through armor anymore, so a little out of date on that info. And that's it. They successfully nuked the station. This crew of Nukies worked very well together. The station had some unfortunate incidents, but the Nukies also had kobolds. Both kobolds ran off and died. But yeah, it's really cool seeing people use my entrance strategy. Obviously, I only ever explain entrance strategies. And thank you for watching. This was Leviathan 51298, if you wish to watch this replay on your own.